Joining me now to discuss the topic, Democratic political strategist Joe Lestingi. Joe, welcome back to America's Forum. Joe, obviously we have Steve Stockman and some others frustrated with the move the president has made, but it's been interesting to see the counter moves of Democrats in terms of fundraising, etc.
Sure.
Is the administration wanting impeachment or wanting to use this issue?
I don't think so. No, obviously, I don't think anyone wants impeachment. But I will say this: I mean, these are bombs that are being lobbed from the other side. We've had talks of lawsuits, talks of impeachment, and the truth is impeachment is done by the House. And when the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, wants to fundraise off of this, they can, because when they elect more Democrats, these threats of impeachment aren't going to be, they're not going to be tallied around so much. I mean, the Republicans are wading into dangerous waters. They've been calling for impeachment, I think, since 2009.
Joe Lestingi, we appreciate your perspective. We should point out now that we've been joined by Daniel Scarpinato, the National Press Secretary for the NRCC. So, Daniel, all this impeachment talk, just really a fundraising tool for the Democrats?
Yeah, I think it's a fundraising scam, I would say, by the Democrats. Look, what I would say is that I think that the president is begging for voters to send a clear message in November. I mean, I think Republicans are going to win seats in the House and pick up the Senate, because I think, we've had a summer of disengagement, essentially, by the president, where he's more interested in traveling the country and going to diners and playing pool and drinking beer than dealing with the issues. And I think Americans are rightfully extremely frustrated. And it's going to be a real disaster for the Democrats in November. I think they're in denial of this. I don't think they realize it. But people are going to send a clear message. One question we ask in every poll we do in every district in the country, including in ones where President Obama won, is: do you want a Republican who will be a check and a balance on the president, or a Democrat who will help pass the president's agenda? And by far, in every district, again, including ones where he won, people want a check and balance on him. They don't trust this president anymore. And I think that's really what this is all about.
Well, one of the things we try to do here, gentlemen, is to pull the curtain back. And fundraising, we understand, is a necessity, and there has to be an urgent reason for people to give their money. Now, yep. Joe, you went through, and I appreciate you laying out kind of a schematic there.
Sure.
But the fact is, let me offer a compliment to the DCCC in terms of the fact when they sent out all the emails, they've gotten about $2 million in response. But I want to show you what the incoming Republican House Majority Whip Steve Scalise had to say this weekend. I believe he was interviewed on Fox News Sunday. Congressman Scalise says, and I quote, "This might be the first White House in history that's trying to start the narrative of impeaching their own president." Now, let's face it, there are frustrations on the Republican side. A member or two may mention the I word, but as a political reality, Joe, you don't believe that's going to take place, do you?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I don't know. I mean, no one knew really. I mean, and you may be able to speak to this from your experience in the House, but when they impeached Clinton in the 90s, that was a bit of a surprise. It was also a folly on their part. There are plenty of polls out there that say that the Republican base wants impeachment. There are plenty of fundraising activities going on the Republican side to raise money off of impeachment. Both sides are using this to whatever advantages they have. And if you recall, the lawsuit a few weeks ago was also a big fundraiser for the Republicans, and members of Congress sent out emails regarding that. I mean, this is just a lot of political talk. I actually don't know if impeachment's going to happen. I think if the Republicans do it, it will be very costly to them, and they know it. And that's all. I mean, and that's why it has not happened yet.
Well, Joe, you mentioned what transpired in years past. I can tell you what happened in my mind. There was a situation where, sadly, the President of the United States, in my eyes, committed perjury, and that was one of the problems that led to what happened to President Clinton. Let's get back to the here and now. Daniel, taking a look at a new poll, and it's a poll of voters who are likely to vote in the midterms, asking Americans, would you want Obama to campaign for you? And you can see a resounding no. 57% of the respondents, only 41% say yes. Now, we should note this is not a poll of members of Congress right now, but the mood is indicative of what's transpiring around the country. Daniel, as you look at what the NRCC is monitoring, just how bad is it getting for the president and the Democrats?
I don't know if it can get worse. I mean, Congressman, you remember what it was like in 2008 when President, or 2006, I guess, when President Bush was very unpopular, and members of Congress who were in tough races had to deal with that. And this is very similar to that, if not worse, in many cases. And the Democrats can't get away from the president fast enough. We have a standing offer that if the Democrats want President Obama to go to any of the competitive districts in the country and campaign with their candidates, we will get the plane ticket, buy the confetti and balloons and set it up. But so far they haven't taken us up on the offer, and it's very clear why. And we're talking about congressional districts, by the way, where President Obama got 55% of the vote, 56% of the vote in some cases. And you just saw the poll that came out that showed that Governor Mitt Romney would win the presidential election today. So I think all the talk after Obama won in 2012 about how the Republican Party should be buried and put out of its misery was all nonsense. That clearly the environment has shifted, and it's not just because it's a midterm, as the media likes to say. It's because the president has squandered his support among the American people by a really out of control agenda and total disengagement.
Well, Daniel,
since he's been
to be
reelected.
fair, you're citing a CNN poll, and we should also point out that they looked ahead to 2016, pitting Mitt Romney against Hillary Clinton, and Mrs. Clinton was ahead and winning that matchup going away. Speaking of Mrs. Clinton and CNN, she was on the other night. She raised some eyebrows about a comment she made concerning former President George W. Bush. It was not a disparaging comment. Take a listen. I'd like to get your reactions after we listen to this.
Whether you agree or disagree with a lot of what else he did, and I disagree with a lot of it, I am proud to be an American when I go to sub-Saharan Africa and people say, I want to thank President Bush and the United States for, helping us fight HIV/AIDS.
So there is a specific word of praise for Bush 43. Joe, is this something where the Clinton folks have already micro-targeted? They say there's some independent women out there, or there's some soft Republican women. A word of kindness for a Republican chief executive can reap votes in the future for Mrs. Clinton?
Well, I think she, much like I, am actually quite proud of that movement. And we wonder today, and I think what she's setting up here politically is what happened to the compassion in his party? I mean, this was what he did in sub-Saharan Africa on AIDS was huge. I mean, it was great for that region. It was great for America abroad. It really helped us look like leaders when we needed it the most.
All right, Joe, fair enough. We only have about a minute left, and the charge is being made, Daniel, that Republicans lack compassion, that George W. Bush at least was a compassionate conservative. You get the last word.
Yeah, well, that's not what I remember Hillary Clinton and President Obama saying in 2008 when they were on the campaign trail and demonized the president every opportunity they had. I mean, the rhetoric was so hot. We are a party of compassion, and frankly, the president's agenda has failed at helping people. People are suffering more than ever, and Republicans have an agenda of jobs and economic opportunity and getting people out of minimum wage jobs and into good-paying jobs. That's compassion, and that's what we're about.
And we'll have to leave it right there. Daniel, we thank you for your perspective, and Joe, as always, we thank you for your perspective. It always sparks debate and healthy disagreement, and we'll have you both back again soon. So that's the take of our good friends from Washington. What are your comments? Why don't you tweet them to me at Newsmax TV, #AmericasForum.